Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Scaling SaaS Podcast, brought to you by Zeno Digital Consulting Group. I'm your host, Brad Cavanaugh. Each week, we sit down with SaaS founders and tech leaders who are scaling smarter, building systems that generate real results and not just hype. Today's episode is all about something that doesn't get enough attention, in my opinion, is scaling without VC, venture capital. In a world obsessed with funding rounds, unicorn valuations, blitz scaling, what does it look like to actually build a profitable, sustainable company the hard way? One client, one project, one breakthrough at a time. So joining me today is Babar Arshad, the chief titan at iTitans, a global software development firm known for helping companies transform complex challenges into elegant technology solutions, all without relying on outside investment. Babar, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. When we first talked and, when I kind of found you, I guess, I do feel like it is a rarity in today's world with companies like yours. And so, but let's get it. Why don't you just give a little bit of background for listeners who aren't familiar with iTitans? Why don't you just give us a quick snapshot of what you do, type of clients you work with, anything you'd like to add?
Perfect. Thank you so much. iTitans was started out of necessity about 6 years ago. I was building a product of my own with a team that was efficient and was not breaking, breaking my bank. So my friends, my colleagues came up to me. They're like, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We don't really like your product a lot, but we like the technology you've built. So can you help us build ours?" I'm like, okay, I was looking to make money. I was starting off. So I was like, okay, why not? So, this is how iTitans came into being. And since that time, I've kept the motto and the idea of iTitans to build technology that is usable for businesses. In my opinion, technology is nothing if it cannot be leveraged upon, if it cannot give you more returns. And I ideally think that technology should give you more than what you spend in the next 2 years of building it. If no, then it's not worth it. So we build good business technology. We focus on very lean solutions. We don't. If you come up with 100 requirements, you won't take all those and build something. We'll build something that is actually required for your business. So that is the ideology and vision behind iTitans. Our tagline is "You do the business, we do the tech," and we follow that. We take hassles off business owners' plates and we build them something that is very usable. To date, we've worked with about 250 plus clients, ranging from big listed companies to small entrepreneurs with ideas. And that is where we vibe well. That is where our um, uh, little sweet spot lies, helping people kick things off and being part of the success story. That's what personally gets me going.
That's awesome. Was bootstrapping kind of always the plan, or were there moments where you're like, maybe I need to go out and raise some money, or was was it pretty much straight up like this is how we're gonna
So
do it?
because I personally have built products by bootstrapping, and they've been successful in the market, I feel that is the motto that I like, and that is what I preach. Every person has their own taste, right? I mean, it comes with its own sets of challenges. Bootstrapping or not bootstrapping, it's a whole debate, right? But I personally think if your product cannot be sustainable in a few years by itself, then it's not really it's not really a business. It's just an idea. Um, the VC world, especially in the COVID time, it gave us this dilemma, I would say, of hey, build something that is a little bit scalable, and we'll give you money to make it more scalable. Does not matter if it makes profit or no. Uber broke, started making money a couple of years ago. Um, so this idea, I think is a little flawed. I like the business style which our older generation was doing, in which businesses actually made money. And then if somebody wants to come in and help you scale, that's a different thing. But I think your business should make money. It should be an idea that is sustainable. It should help you achieve what you want to achieve. And then scaling it up, you can have outside help. Like, our forefathers used to take help from banks and stuff. Um, so yeah, that is the idea that I really go with, for me and my clients.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between, obviously getting a help from a bank, whatever, versus VC, right? I mean, you don't lose any of that control or equity, et cetera. So that's a little different. What what do you feel like was the kind of the toughest stretch early on when you started iTitans? Was it cash flow? Was it talent? Was it getting those few first kind of anchor clients to just solidify this idea as being a proper business in your words?
I think if I'm being honest, I was lucky enough to get good clients in the start just because of COVID. I think COVID was there and I was working in the health tech field. So I just got lucky, honestly, with the clients part in the start. Sustaining after those clients was a big challenge. And also getting the right talent in place in the start was interesting because tech people are interesting. They're like artists, so they have to be dealt one person at a time. You cannot have a one size fits all for tech talent if you want good tech talent. So that is where I had challenges in the start, and it took me a couple of years to navigate and figure out how to hire good people and how to keep good people in my team, how to retain talent. So I think that would be the biggest major challenge in the start.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? Just not even just finding the talent because there's a bunch out there, but it is hard to find the good ones. But then keeping them is the key. And so, do you think do you think being self-funded has kind of shaped the culture inside of iTitans compared to maybe a VC-backed startup? Because those cultures, I would imagine, I've been in both worlds, and in my opinion, those cultures are very different. So I'm interested in what your thoughts are in that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I've honestly not thought about that in this perspective, but we've always taught ownership in the team. We always taught that, hey, a project is not done until it's delivered and deployed and being used. Instead of, hey, I've done my part of the coding and give me my money. So our compensation, our bonuses, our structure lies for project deployment and project usage instead of just coding a project. I think that is much different than a VC backed startup or a bigger company, even where people come in, do their set of stories or jobs and then leave. Same is for my product managers. I have a good layer of product managers which have to take ownership as leaders. I have trained them, worked with them over the past 5 years, and made this layer which takes ultra ownership. There's like mini versions of myself which work with the team. So I think, yes, being not being backed by big VCs has led to this culture, and that is what I like. That is what I want to preach and where I want to be.
And I think there's also maybe this is maybe it's not quite fair, but I think a lot of times in that world, the founders are there for the exit, right? And so they get the VC funding, they finally get profitable, and then and that could kind of filter down to the teams. It's like, well, you're not really here to build something, you're really here to just build to exit. So I can see how, I like how you said it, you created basically just a bunch of mini yous, in the teams because you're there for the long haul, right? This isn't about a quick exit or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what I know. This is what I know, and this is what I do for my life. So I want to keep doing it. There's gonna
Yeah.
be good phases, bad phases, and wins, losses. If a client goes the VC route and doesn't exit, good for them, but I personally think that this is what I want to be doing. I want to be building, scaling, helping people have this freedom based lifestyle which the tech world brings, and it's only possible if you keep working on it in the right direction.
Yeah, and one of the challenges, so I've done something similar. I think, one of the things that folks like you have to find when you've committed to that level of bootstrapping, you just know that that's the route you're going. You've got to find some leverage somewhere, whether it's tools, systems, automation, right? You have to be able to scale without just adding headcount, right? Because it's very easy when you have a pile of money in the bank to just hire a bunch of people, right? So what did you find were your kind of biggest force multipliers in growth or operations?
Um, I think my processes have been a key in terms of scaling up. I always feel people and processes, should be scaled up side by side and not just one. Then it becomes heavy on one side and it's tough to scale. So my processes have been backbone since day one, and they include some tools, they include some ways of operation, they include some ideologies, but yeah, a lot of my style comes from actual delivery, as I mentioned in the start, instead of just building something, delivering something. So that is where my processes lie on, and that is where my people also, work in that style. So I think, yeah, having the right processes has helped me, um, sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of hiring people. If people don't agree to my processes and come in my structure, then I don't think they're the right fit. Then they lie outside my organization. So that is how I think the leverage gets built. You have the right processes, and then people come and scale them up and add that multiplier effect in those processes.
I mean, process is huge. It's been a big part of my background is, process reengineering, process design. So if you don't mind, like what was one process or maybe even just a system or technology that you guys built internally that made a huge difference in your ability to scale, and not just scale, but scale sustainably?
Yeah, our reporting methodology has been, I think, standout since the start. This is from before the time that I had a tool built for it. Now we have a tool that helps us internal people report in the right way. Because in technology, it's tough to on a daily level, it's tough to measure what people are doing. Yes, you can have Jira and stories and assign stories and gauge on that, but a story can take 2 hours or 20 hours depending on complexities that people find. So I was always asked by people, hey, how do we know your team is working? Do you can you set up a tool to monitor their performance, like a screen sharing tool and stuff like that, which I don't really vibe with. I'm like, no, I'm not going to track my people and share their screens and stuff like that. Um, so our reporting methodologies from the start have been very, as I said, delivery based. So from the start, before having tools, we have this daily reporting mechanism in which every person in the hierarchy has to report their performance, and then people pile them up, and I get a report. To date, I get a daily report of what is happening in my company in a summarized version, of course. But that reporting methodology, I don't see in a lot of technology companies. Yes, they go in a sprint model and they track a 2 week performance through Jira. There's some reports available there, but I think that again leaves a lot of room for subjective output, which I don't really like. I want output to be based in terms of measurables, deliverables on a daily level. So I think that is one process that has helped me. And some people don't like that. Some engineers don't like that daily tracking model, and they then don't lie in my organization. They lie outside of it. So yeah, that's one thing I think that has helped a lot.
Yeah, I found there are definitely holes in, kind of the sprint model. And I mean, it's good, but it takes a lot to kind of keep that going and kind of understand, where the gaps are, what's being done, what's actually being done. Cause a lot of times it can distort what's really happening. When you're just kind of keeping notes in Jira or something like that, it can be a challenge.
Yeah.
So how how do you balance the growth? So kind of keeping an eye on, so actually let me rephrase that. So a lot of founders as they grow, they have traditionally relied on themselves, to kind of a founder-led sales model, right? You get involved, and all that sort of thing, and then they realize that too much depends on them. And so how have you managed to, did you go through that process, and how did you manage to kind of keep your deal flow healthy without really expanding the team too fast?
For sure, I've gone through that, and I think a lot of services businesses go through that same struggle. Um, as I said, I created mini leaders in the organization, and my goal is to make every person a salesperson, and I have a strategy for it, which relies a lot on digital presence and personal branding. I think each engineer can be a salesperson also if they're branding themselves in the right way, and that's a tough thing to do because a lot of people in the tech world, they don't want to be digitally present, they just want to be ghosts working behind computers. So it goes against the type of people that we work with usually. But I'm on that journey, I'm on the journey where I'm creating leaders and I'm having them present digitally, and I think they all can be salespeople. My PMs are there. They help me bring more sales, and they help me bring more clientele. Their job is to upsell and cross-sell to clients as per need. A lot of referrals they try to get from clients by having these casual discussions which are not around the client's business only, to check to see what sort of people they hang out with and know, so we can be present in their social circles somehow when the conversations come up. So I think creating again those mini versions of myself is how I'm getting more salespeople. I also have a sales team now that we've figured out formulas of how to try and sell in this industry, which is a tough industry to sell in if you see outbound sales. But I always believe in more of the inbound model. And for that, I need to have more people speaking, representing my company, which we are working towards. It's a tough ask when it comes to engineers and everyone being sales people. But I think anybody can be a salesperson in today's world if the base is set in the right way. And that's what I'm striving towards.
For sure. No, that is tough. I mean, it can be a hard ask on somebody because that's not really why they signed up, right? They signed up to do this other job, and then now they're kind of asked to expand their skill set a little bit, which can be uncomfortable. And do you find yourself doing a lot of sales training to your PMs and engineers and that sort of thing, or is it more just natural?
Uh, I think the PMs are more natural because I hire them based on their personality types. I like people who know business more than technology on the PM side. And that naturally makes them good communicators and more curious, and they like more personal relationships. And that's what sales is about. I don't push sales. I always believe in the idea of incoming sales. Yes, my sales team has a training model and I've trained them. I have about 10 people in my sales team only, and that's very recent that I'm trying to explore that outbound side of sales. But most of my sales have been inbound, and that is not at all any training based sales. That's just personality based and relationship based. Um, the engineers, on the other hand, are interesting because even personal branding for them is foreign. They don't know what, how, when. And to them, I have to train, I have to motivate, I have to always tell them why, what's the reason behind anything that we're doing, because I really believe in people understanding the reasoning. Um, so a lot of my training that you can call is just helping people understand the reasoning behind what we are doing, and then helping them give some tools and some tricks on how that can be done.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I think you sort of answered this question, but I want to maybe just take it a different, little bit level. So, from a philosophy around, kind of building those lasting client relationships versus just one-off projects.
Mhm.
So, do you have a philosophy? As it sounds like you do, and that's why I wanted to kind of touch on it. Maybe you can expand a little bit on how you build those relationships versus just building something for someone and off they go.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think for sure, my philosophy is based on honesty. Our older tagline was "You grow, we grow." Then we changed it to "You do the business, we do the tech." But you grow, we grow was very straightforward, right? Like, there's no way I can keep working with the client unless I'm helping them grow. And for that, I have to be honest. If people come up to me with 20 ideas and I don't think they're good for the MVP, I need to trim them down to 15, 10, 5. That gives me less money in the start, but I know that is how this client will be sustainable. That is how this client can go to the market and get good money from the market, get good traction, and then I grow with the client. So there's so many examples, right? I've told people, and I'm a straightforward person, right? I've told people that their ideas are shit on call one, and they're like, "What the hell? Who are you to tell me that to me?" And then those same people come back to me after working with other people for a few months, and they're like, "We really like your approach on how you took ownership and honesty from day one. So yes, we'll pay you a premium and we'll work with you. This is a small example, right? And that same trickles down to my team. I tell them not to take in stuff just because the client is saying. Can be small features, can be a whole workflow, can be anything, to use their own mind and give honest opinion. And that sometimes that opinion is not really usable or really viable for the client, but they at least have that understanding that this is my own team. The problem with the agency model is the foreign concept, especially if the resources are not present in the same vicinity. We have a mix of offshore and onshore resources. If you cannot establish that trust over time with people, then it becomes really, really hard for them to stay with you, especially when times are tough, especially when the clients are not getting good returns back.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed on your LinkedIn, right? You kind of allude to the fact that you just don't that iTitans doesn't just code. You build brands and teams, and so like, what do you mean by that, and how does that? What does that look like in practice? I mean, you touched on a
Yeah.
little bit of it, but what does it really look like in practice? Because you're doing the coding, but you're also talking about something that's not traditionally associated with firms that code.
Yeah, yeah. I go with the tagline. That's a personal branding tagline for me, but of course, trickles down in our company. It goes like I love to build products and teams, brands and dreams. Um, I think dreams are built on these three things that you mentioned, right? Having the right teams, having the right products, can be physical, digital, whatever, and having the right strategy behind it. So if you don't have the right product, the right branding behind your ideology, behind how you want to change the world, how you want to change an industry, how you want to help solve a small problem, then it's tough to dream about it in a bigger scale. So that's what I try to trickle down to my company and my clients, because if they're building a good product with me but their team sucks, I don't think they'll be successful. If they don't be successful, I will not be successful with them. So I'm very, very involved in my clients, and that's where my role comes in on a strategy level, on a people management level. A lot of people who come into the technology world, they might be entrepreneurs in some other industry and now they have a tech idea. They don't know how to manage or how to bring on the right people, the right resources. They don't know how to brand in the right way because it's a different industry. Sometimes they don't know one part of it really well, but the other part sucks. So my job is to make sure this combination of three things lies, um, the right balance lies in their mind and in their processes. Also the vision, right? A traditional business owner will not dream about tech products like how they can be dreamt about. Tech products can very quickly take off and change the world. If you spend just a small amount, just a very basic amount on something that can change the world, you'll build a freaking Toyota instead of a Ferrari. So that has to be understood by entrepreneurs sometimes, because that's very important. If you want to dream big, that's very important to put in the right kind of investment, time, effort, energy to build that. So my job is helping them understand that and then execute that, but the understanding part is the more tougher part.
Yeah, seems like you do a lot, right? You're not just code, you don't have just a coding business, right? You're also involved with Commerce Hub. Sounds like you're also advising startups. So, like, what are the patterns that you're seeing among the ones that survive and scale and thrive versus the ones that don't and they kind of fade out and just don't make it? Are there any patterns that you can, tell the audience about what you're seeing that they might want to pay attention to?
Yeah, yeah. Ideas that I've seen, be successful. The founders are hungry, they are hardworking, and they're honest. So as founder traits, that's what I've noticed, is the 3H thing that founders sort of have in their personality. And then some things they have naturally, some things they learn over time, but they have to, I think, have these three things to sort of back their startup in the right way. And the startup itself, the idea itself, the structure itself has to be sustainable, it has to be suitable, and it has to be sexy. 3S. So if And I can go into details of all this, but if the idea is not sustainable, it will not start making you money. I don't think it's going to work. If the idea is not suitable for that industry, that timing is very, very important. It will not work. If the idea is not sexy, I mean, in today's world, the idea has to be catchy. It has to ring some bells. You personally have to find, you and your team have to find motivation to be in that industry and that idea. It's not going to work. And the same for the 3H for the founders. Again, that's very straightforward. They have to be honest with what's going on. Part on the supply side, on the demand side, you have to be honest. You cannot be emotional. You cannot be driven by emotions. You have to be driven by logic and honesty. You have to be hungry. That's very, very important, especially in times that are tough. You have to be hungry for that golden vision, that ball of light that you're chasing. And you have to hustle, slash hard work. There's times when you have to put your head down and just work. There's nothing else that can be done on those times. So some people just want that flashy entrepreneur title and lifestyle, but a lot of times it's just putting your head down and working hard, because that's what the time requires. And again, that also comes from honesty. So I think these combination in the founders and the products, I've seen to be really, really successful. And you can have two out of three, or one really strong and two average on a scale, but you need to have components of these three skills.
Yeah, I mean that having all three of those, I spent most of my career just as an employee, right? I worked for some big technology companies in Silicon Valley, VMware, ServiceNow. I was salary, right? Every 2 weeks you get your paycheck, you don't really think about it until you become an entrepreneur. It's very different, right? You have to be very resilient and, like you said, very hungry and hardworking and honest, and it's a very, very different experience than just kind of getting a paycheck in the mail every couple weeks. And I think a lot of people, it's just too hard for them, I think, and some it's natural. I mean, some people, are have been entrepreneurs their entire life, and some kind of go in and out, but it is a very different world than just, getting a paycheck.
Yeah, and that's very interesting, because one of the two types of people I work with, one of those is people who are looking to shift from a 9 to 5 to a entrepreneur life, and a lot of that is mindset. I think employees are more skilled than entrepreneurs. People who worked as employees, they're more skilled. It's just the mental part that has to be tweaked and changed. They're more skilled, they're more hardworking also. Entrepreneurs are lazy. They always want others to do their job, and they really rarely do stuff themselves, including myself. And my friends make fun of me, my family also. That everything you do is you do nothing yourself. You just talk. Uh, so
You talk on
entrepreneurs are
uh,
yeah. so so I really believe with that right mindset shift, which I help people do and help people shift and take that leap of faith, make that jump, they can be really, really successful, because they have those skills, they have that hunger, they have that hard work. It's just that mindset has to change a little bit.
yeah, no, I mean, and to be perfectly transparent, that's been my biggest challenge is just really changing the mindset. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's a constant battle. I mean, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I'm only kind of 2.5 years into my entrepreneur journey, and it's a challenge. I mean, there's no getting away from that. I want
Yeah.
to touch back on something that you said. You mentioned kind of the technology being sexy, and I can't talk about sexy technology without bringing up AI right now, because that's like the sexiest of the sexies right now. So, as that evolves, and as it's actually becoming a bit more practical, like, how do you see tools like AI and automation and, those types of outreach, like, changing how founders and entrepreneurs scale these businesses?
Yeah. Um, I'm bipolar on AI. I love some parts of it and I hate some parts of it. um, I'm very positive overall. It's a it's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful addition to our set of tools that we have, or processes that we have. But the problem with anything that is hype based is that everybody falls into it. And when everybody falls into it, everybody wants it. Everybody thinks that's sexy, unless it's not sexy at all, and unless it's just draining your bank account. So yeah, I think there's two parts to it. One is the type of people who just want AI for the sake of AI, and one is the type of people who actually want process and efficiency to process improvement and efficiency to come in through AI. I'm on the second type. I only bring in AI when it's needed. I think it's going to be a game changer. Already is, but I think on a very, very micro level, it's going to be a game changer if the right regulations and the right mindset is preached by people about AI. Regulations is a very, very important thing. I think it has to be, and that's very lacking till now. The right regulations, the right legal framework has to come in. There's going to be companies that come up that just help us regulate, legalize, use AI in the right ethical way. I already see some companies, but that's going to be very important in the success of AI in the right way, or else it can ruin a lot of things. And I have a lot of examples where it already has. On the founder level, I always preach bringing in AI where required. I mean, I have this 3S model where S is sexy from before AI was there. Now, sexy for most people just means having AI in the middle. And sometimes AI is not needed. It's just you know, additional pain to take. And I don't preach that. I don't agree with that. If your product does not need an AI bot, if it does not need a chat bot or some learning model, then don't have it. um, so yeah, that
Solve
is
a
my
problem, right? Solve a problem. Don't just bring something in for the sake of bringing it in,
Yeah,
right?
and I don't really blame founders also. Again, it comes from that VC mindset, right? A lot of VCs, a lot of investors are just investing in ideas backed by AI or that have some sort of AI. I have companies that would make pitch decks and I would tell them that it's wrong, but they still want to do it, which just has AI in the middle in as keywords without even having an AI product, you know. They'll just build a small bot on top of a big ecosystem just to say, hey, we are AI enabled. So
Yeah.
I don't blame them because that's keywords that VCs look for, and that's why I'm against that VC hype and VC world, because I think that comes with a lot of fake stuff, a lot of buffering, a lot of just buttering up. So yeah, that's my take on AI. It's beautiful if regulated properly, and it's beautiful if used where needed.
Yeah. And obviously that's where I'm in the space is, we try to look and at the landscape and just see what are the tools out there that can actually solve problems, right? It's not just get AI for the sake of getting AI. And I've had many calls with potential clients. And to your earlier point, I'd have to say, this actually probably won't help you, right? Like you just don't pay for something that's not going to help you. Now, if there's a clear ROI and there's a clear benefit, then certainly explore it. But if not, don't just dive into the ocean just because.
Yeah. One very important point about AI implementation is also your team, right?
Yeah.
Um, yes, OpenAI will cost $200 a month for their best plan, but what about the 1,000 you're paying to your team and their time and energy? If
Right.
you make them use it for the sake of using it, they might suffer, and then they might have to come back and do rework. They might have to have a strong learning curve, etc., etc., etc. So all that has to be taken into consideration when you think of the cost of AI. It's not just a cost for a subscription or having machines or having some GPUs. It's going to come down to actual implementation and what that cost is, including the opportunity cost of it. So I think that is something that people don't really look at. They just look at that monthly, amount that the technology is costing them.
Yeah, yeah. So we're about at kind of the time that I like to spend. So how about we just do one last question here? So if you were starting iTitans again today, what would you do differently?
Um, I think I would try to hire business people before hiring technical people in my business. I went with technical people first, and that was very challenging for me. So I would try to hire business people first, and then hire technical people. I also wish I had taken out some of my savings and investments that I had at the time. There were very few, and use them in the right way. As a service business, you think you don't need investment, you don't need money to go into the business because you don't need to buy any asset. You're not building an asset uh, to start. But I think having the right people and processes, which of course depends on money, would have helped me build this more smoothly in a more scalable way from the start. And I had to learn that the hard way. So yeah, that's something that I would do different.
Nice. I think that's great. That's good advice. I mean, just don't always do it the way, other people do it or the way you think you should do it. I mean, sometimes you got to take some risks and do things a little differently.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Well, this has actually been a fantastic conversation, Babar. It's been a real interesting look into kind of what it takes to build something really sustainable in an industry that's a lot of times just kind of chasing the next funding round. So, from just for our listeners, a few takeaways that have been hearing, right, is, you know, bootstrapping can build focus, it can build discipline. Growth doesn't always require capital, right? It requires creativity. And, there's a lot of different ways to leverage systems, automation, people, to really scale. So, Omar, if you want to tell anybody, like, where can they find iTitans? Is it, is it just iTitans.com? Can you want to connect with you on LinkedIn? Why don't you tell them where you are?
Yeah, any startup founders or people who are looking to shift from a 9 to 5 to an entrepreneur world, they can connect with me personally. Anybody who needs tech services, iTitans.com is the best place to go. I personally really, really go off the idea and love the idea of being a small part of somebody's success story. That can be a 30-minute conversation, that can be using my company for 2 years, that can be anything. So if anybody is stuck in their business career, in their entrepreneur career, I am not a formal business coach, but I love to coach people on mindset and how to get out of those shackles which you just have in your mind when you're very, very skilled. And if that just means a good thought about me in their head, I love that. So I have a free call link on my Instagram and LinkedIn. Hop in there, schedule something. I would love to talk and see how 30-minute, 1 hour conversation might help you, you know, break up and go to that route, which everybody deserves. That freedom that entrepreneurship brings, everybody deserves. So yeah, my Instagram for reaching out to me, and iTitans.com for any tech work that we can help with.
Awesome. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share it with someone who's building something of their own because, sometimes the best funding is really just forward motion. So Babar, thanks again. Thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much.